Welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you find yourself within the metaverse. Welcome to episode 46 of the Metaverse Nomads podcast, where we're here live every week, every Sunday at this same time. We're talking about all things related to the metaverse, metaverse news, as well as following our favorite projects within metaverse. And we've got lots to cover today. How you guys doing? How you doing, Ray? Ray?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little choppy here with what I hear, and it seems to be I'm heard, so that's good. But I'm doing all right. NFT NYC is coming. I'll be there, so any Romans that are roaming the streets, we can chat in our Discord and meet up potentially. Other
Nice.
than that, I'm here in sunny Puerto Rico, and the markets are max pain right now. But
Right?
you know, to cycles. That's all I'll say. So we're gonna be in and out of cycles for a while, for our whole lives.
No
But
pain,
doing all
no
right.
gain.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. How you doing, Fancy?
Doing great. Yeah.
All right.
For the first 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about news, and then we're going to go on to Star Atlas until about the hour mark, and then we'll be going to the Illuvium deep dive.
Very cool. Bonafide, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm enjoying the lessening of activity in the bear market, so you're able to go out and get involved with the communities that you're interested in a lot easier, and really see what's going on, see who's really still working now that the hype is over and it's not about price as much anymore because people know they have a while to wait. It's good to see people actually building and working out there. Shout out to the communities that are still doing it. We're all going to make it.
Indeed. And it seems like we can see kind of the effort of that. All the projects that are really looking to be around for the long haul are clearly putting in the work right now. Especially, it's evident by the pace at which they're cranking out new updates and things that show that they've moved things. They've moved the ball down the field, and that even goes for Gala Games, who I've given a lot of grief to in the past, but they actually seem to have a development team that's actually on fire right now, trying to create some progress with Mirandus. So it might actually be less than 20 years before we see it. I'm excited about the progress, and we've got some stuff, I believe, to show here today. And that same thing goes for Star Atlas. It goes for Illuvium. A lot of the projects we've been paying attention to, they're in deep development mode right now. So it's good to see. What do we got for news?
So, yeah, our first story this week is about Diablo Immortal. Ray, do you want to take this?
Yeah. So everyone, if you haven't been living under a rock, Diablo is a pretty world-renowned game title at this point. Yeah, so they came out with a new game, and the short and sweet of it is basically the title right there. If you wanted to fully upgrade your character, you can just go ahead and not play anything and just buy what's required, which totals $110,000 to fully gear up your Diablo Immortal character. So the game's title is Diablo Immortal, and thank God these aren't NFTs, right? Am I right? So traditional gaming is just definitely the way, and we should just stay there, because now you just continue to give your money to the developers who create games, and you can enjoy the game. It's just a win-win in my eyes. See, that was total sarcasm for those of you around the world watching at this time. This is not how it should be. It was never the way it should have been, but I guess this is all we knew as traditional gamers until blockchain gaming came along with the utility of NFTs. And now you can actually own these games, these skins in the games, or the guns, or the actual characters, the avatars themselves. And then you can trade them peer to peer. So amongst the community members who also have accounts and play and own within these ecosystems on these servers. So it's a thing, and just get used to it and tell your friends.
I think you got a good point there,
there's been
Ray.
a lot of backlash. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the free-to-play model, the reason that so many companies switched to it was because they were able to get this insane amount of value from their community just for purchasing skins and things that didn't really matter in the game. And so there's a danger there, because there are companies who know, especially companies that might have free-to-play experience like a Gala Games or something like that, who know that kind of money's out there. And there's always going to be the worry that they might decide to switch it over to NFTs without giving the value back, which will make our community look very similar to the way that the free-to-play community looks right now, which is why we've always been out here talking about it's on us as the community to talk to these developers and be very obvious about what we're willing to allow, what we're not willing to.
Yeah,
Well
I agree.
said,
I
yeah.
watched a video about this, and it was describing all the different ways you have to like pay to get ahead in this game, and multiple currencies, all these different gems, and it was a nightmare. It's like a casino.
I mean, I had friends, back when Clash of Clans was crazy, who were dropping, $500 in a week on Clash of Clans. You know what I mean? I personally know people who were doing stuff like that. So it's not, insane to me that, you might have somebody who's rich over in Dubai or something like that able to drop $100,000 on a video game that they don't, they're not going to get any value back from. But we all hope that the NFT space goes the opposite direction, where people in, countries where they're not making as much money are able to participate and actually thrive, similar to the way people in the Philippines were with Axie Infinity.
Yeah, I like this comment by
Yeah.
Wesbit here. No way I'm going to play a game that I'll never get anything back from.
Not anymore, man. I tell all my friends all the time, I'm not playing it if it's not at play to earn.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a delay, but it does make sense now that we just speak out loud about it, and that there has been some traction and games being developed. We'll get to the epic, Gala games with Grit and soon with Fancy. But yeah, there's a website, playerauctions.com, and it's a great traditional, Web 2 website where you can buy and sell, World of Warcraft gold, any type of traditional gaming, up to 200 plus games, and 2.1 million users are using it right now. And it's been, for 20 years, we maintained and secured player to player trades. So it's a great website. It's I've used it before, and it just makes sense that although this was always a thing between traditional gamers selling and trying to get out or in a particular game, that it's just commonplace now, and it's actually quote unquote legal to do such things.
There's so many different ways to look at it, and when I think of the games that I play and the whole draw that we have to, especially MMO RPGs and anything where you can experience the hero's journey, where you can get into a game, you start out with this total noob character, and you can build up over time to become a powerhouse, rather than it just being set up for kingmakers, for people to step in and be an instant, uncontested authority in a game. And I think the games that are really going to succeed are the ones that give the average player the feel that they have the ability to step into this game with whatever resources are available to them, and they can put the time and effort in and be able to rise, to whatever rank that they want to. Now, of course, the developers of these games, they obviously are a business and they want to make money. But then you have this whole aspect where $100,000 for a top tier to be fully decked out in a game, and that doesn't really, I don't know how much in that article they get into the whole idea of what that gets you. But if you don't have the ability to earn from that, and you don't actually have a business model, because that is an investment, that you can buy a house in many places around the world with that. Mm-hmm. So to put that into a game, unless, like you were saying, Bonafide, you're some rich tycoon that's got money to drop on playing a game and that doesn't really matter that pennies to them, that's one thing. But if you're going to have a game that truly appeals to the masses, you have to have elements of that hero's journey, and you can't feel that you're just against all the odds the moment that you get started.
Yeah, you're right, because you just touched on a memory for me. I've played games in the past that were seriously play to earn, and you would have that kid or whoever he was over in some other country who's willing to drop that kind of cash. And those kind of games always fell apart because there was no hero's journey. The person who was able to afford that, who was willing to play the game and pay that kind of money, dominated the game. And their guild or their organizations inside the game dominated, and it wasn't going to be as much fun for the cheaper players. And hopefully the NFT space doesn't go that way. The play to win route failed across many genres over the past several years, so hopefully it doesn't come here.
Yeah, I like one of the comments on this. It says, when the servers will inevitably be down, all the 100k in gear will vanish. At least with a rugged NFT, you will have some kind of memorabilia.
So at the end of the day, you still have control on something.
That's great, man. What else we got for news?
Yeah. hey, let's just skip all of Web 2 and 3 and jump to Web 5 or
That's
7
it.
or 9. Just pick a number and throw Web right behind it. So Jack Dorsey here has just announced he's building, or his team rather, is building Web 5, and it's centered around Bitcoin, and it's going to be powered by Bitcoin, more for identity purposes. But as you see here, this new decentralized web leverages the Bitcoin for these purposes of what he's trying to accomplish. So he's not a fan per se of Web 3, and blockchains are not efficient. And as such, it might not make sense to use it for everything. So yeah, you can't really deny what he's saying has some place in reality, because as we see, there's a lot of bumps in the roads and hacks, and just pick something that could possibly go wrong, and it has or can or will in the realm of possibilities. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he's building, but it's gonna be the amount of memes that took place. Like he basically ruffled the leaves of crypto Twitter memes,
Right.
and especially because we're in the most crappiest time as far as pricing and the cycle of markets we're in. It just maybe it helped lighten the mood on some level.
I mean,
I
Web
thought
3 is still in its concept phase,
Yeah.
but he's jumping
Yeah.
ahead. to 5.
See, right. You see a lot of people just jumping the gun to get ahead of the fast development and the fast pace of this new industry that we're in. So, and then on another note, I don't know if you have the article there, but Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey fund Bitcoin education programs for residents in Marcy houses in Brooklyn. So there's some collaboration going on. This was June 9th. And the quick take is the rapper Sean Jay-Z Carter and Twitter founder Jack Dorsey will fund the Bitcoin education program for residents in Brooklyn. And then Dorsey said he thinks Bitcoin could be an important tool in empowering marginalized communities. So you're going to have the whole spectrum of reasons why people are doing things, from the local ground floor, organic grassroots type of situation, to the macro, international corporative, worldwide level Bitcoin adoption, banks, and the like. So it's spreading, and it's just more reason for why everyone should just keep their eyes open, no matter what cycle of the market we're in, bear or bull.
I've always had a lot of respect for Jack Dorsey, and this debate is too big brain for me. I'm definitely not a computer person on that level, but I found it interesting because you had the one side where Twitter blew up and everybody was memeing Jack Dorsey with the Web 3, Web 7, Web 5. Everybody was just throwing out a number. Then they were talking about Discord 2 and 3, and everybody was having fun with it, and I enjoyed that. But I also thought it was interesting because I was able to watch people like Munib, that created the Stacks blockchain on top of Bitcoin, actually engage with Jack Dorsey and debate this. And they're actually talking about something that's actually realistic, and they're actually planning the future of what's going to be the metaverse, whether it's Web 3 or Web 4 or Web 5 or whatever that eventually wins out. So I thought that was really interesting because there was actually a big brain conversation going on that I think some of us weren't capable of seeing, but at the same time, we had a lot of fun at the same time. So it was great.
Yeah, I think the idea behind Web 5 is that it's Web 2 and Web 3 added together.
Yeah. I support any project that is trying to make a move towards decentralization. I think that's in the best interest of all of them. And even if they're centralized versions or not open source versions of decentralization, it's still moving that direction because it's exploring the idea of how do we take the power away from a few and put it back in the hands of the many. And so that's going to take a lot of different forms before we actually settle on some standards. So I think all projects that lean in that direction is a positive.
And to be fair to Jack, I mean, in the past, I have seen him leaning away from centralization towards decentralization. A lot of the moves he's made have been in support of decentralization over the past. So I don't really think that he's pushing towards centralization, but it's definitely something we have to pay attention to, like you say.
Yeah, you can give it up to GameStop also. There's an article that probably wasn't before we get to the grit situation. We have MasterCard actually allowing payments, or they're MasterCard is bringing payments to networks and to Web3 and NFT purchases. So now these companies are openly just allowing things and letting people use MasterCard and other institutions or companies for simple and secure NFT purchases. So I think it's awesome, and there's so much news that comes out on a Twitter feed you can't possibly in a day just take your eyes off, and then still not, you're gonna miss something. But along with that, we got GameStop also allowing you to make an actual GME wallet, and then you're gonna be able to play one of the games. The first ones actually, it's Wag Me the Fence. So it's a interesting tower defense ish like game, and it's gonna be play to earn. So we have again, like the whole spectrum of companies and institutions just getting involved in some way, some fashion.
Yeah, great points. So moving on, this week there was a big announcement. There was Gala Games and Epic Games partnering to launch Grit on the Epic Games Store, and it's the first NFT game joining the Epic Games Store. So yeah, it's quite a big deal, really. This is going to get it out in front of a lot of people. It's not as big as Steam, but they've both taken quite different stances on it, and this could be an opportunity for it to pay off.
Yeah, sorry, Blockbuster Steam, and I was just gonna make a point where this is the first Epic Games release since Fortnite, and the game similarly plays as that, but just like Westernish style without the building, as Fortnite had. So I think it's going to catch on real quick because it's almost identical to what people are playing now. And now you just spin it in a way where you're going to earn and own what you have. It's just like a no-brainer for, I think, the people who are going to be interested in it. So,
yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't heard a whole lot about the play-to-earn mechanics, but like we've already talked about, just the ability for you to buy those skins like you would buy in a regular game and be able to hold them and resell them in the future will be a big change, and it'll change the perspective of the players. When they start feeling that ownership, that'll help, even if it's not really a strong play-to-earn candidate.
Sure.
Slide, but Grit is going to be one of the very first games on the Epic Games Store. We signed a partnership with Epic, so this is going not just to go to Gala. This is going to go to the entire gaming world. This is the moment that it's all going to start to change, and everybody's going to figure out that why would you play any game where you don't own what you buy in the game.
So here's a couple thoughts on that. And Gala has been on fire lately with news and updates and information. But there's something that still remains the same. We have no understanding of what their play-to-earn model is. They have one game right now where you can earn, and that's Townstar. And the ability to earn in that has gone down substantially over time. So they're releasing all of these games, and I think they have something like 24 slated for total release this year. I don't know what number they're at now, but it's up there quite a bit. And so this is an interesting announcement because it's a blockchain game. But the truth is, all that we know about it right now just makes it a game. So that part is not very newsworthy in the sense that there's lots of games that are playable out there, console, desktop, and otherwise mobile. And so what we do see with Gala, though, is they are charging pretty high prices for their NFTs, which prices it out of the wallet of the average player that wants to participate in something like this. And so when you're paying that much, as we've already talked about, it becomes an investment. And yet we don't know what the model for earnings is. They continue to release games, but there's nothing that tells us what the earning model is in their gameplay. And we see all kinds. We see 4X. They just announced that they have Battlestar Galactica IP. So now they have two big IPs out there from TV, The Walking Dead, now Battlestar Galactica. They have their Fortitude game, which is going to be a tower defense. I think they have two 4X games now. They've got a bunch of different types of games. They've got Spider Tanks, which is kind of like an arena battle. So that's great. These all seem to be fun, playable games, but the price that they're charging should lean towards helping us understand what a person's paying for. What's the utility and what can you make from this sizable, because it is sizable, investment.
Yeah, I believe there is
no
already an NFT around from this. People who attended the GalaCon event, they got a horse, which can be quite cool. It was a pricey ticket, so it's good they got something for it.
It's like $8,000 ticket, and they got an $800 horse.
I'm not sure how much the horse is, but there's only 500 of them. So if this game does pop off, it could be a good thing to hold on to.
Mhm.
Let's hear what Bryson has
shout
to
out-
say about all of this.
Oh, God.
What's up, Ray?
All right, guys, we are.
No, I was
giving
gonna
you
say shout out to Jake,
in-game content
but
of
we'll
Grit.
get to it.
It's looking insane in the membrane, but this is what your character looks like in game. We could lay down some shots. Think Wild West. Think Battle Royale. Think Fortnite. Zero build Fortnite plus whatever your favorite Battle Royale game is, and this is what you get.
So yeah.
I wanted to give a shout out to Jake for
Mhm.
I know there's probably a delay, but I'm just gonna continue here. But Jake for being in the trenches of the Galaverse event that took place, and you could go on to the Gala's Discord to check out these 3 separate links that give you a synopsis of what happened on each day, and amongst many things.
Yeah.
But
I think you're
But
talking
yeah,
about
go
Jake
ahead.
from On Chain Gaming.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
he did a
did-
lot
Jake
of live streaming out there. So check out On Chain Gaming if you guys are
Mhm.
interested. They did a lot of live streaming. They did some interviews. They did some gameplay. It was
Yeah,
really
they
cool
walked you
watching
through
it.
the whole event.
Yeah.
He
In
did a
general,
good job.
in general, I like Gala games, and I like what they're doing in general. What I worry about is that I don't think a lot of people understand that they have never really said that you're going to be able to make a lot of money playing their games. Or I mean, they have said that they wanted to. They sold this idea that they wanted to help people in third world countries, make some sort of an income by playing games. But they haven't said that every game that they launch is going to be play to earn or anything like that. And I think that's the issue that people are running into, is they're thinking they're going to spend all this money on NFTs in a game like Grid when they might not even have a play to earn economy. It might really just be a Fortnite clone with NFTs where you can, resell your skins later. And that might be the case. And, so if you're not paying attention to what's actually being said, and that's why we've had the conversations we've had in the past about Miranda's, because we were coming into Miranda's with the perspective of being able to play and earn, and anytime we saw that being challenged, that potential future being challenged, we pushed back. And it's going to be important to keep doing that and be careful where you're putting your money when it comes to Gala, because some of that stuff is not going to necessarily gain value over time or return value back to you.
I think if Gala
the
was
shotgun
approaching the
approach is
market,
alive and well with a lot of these types of projects.
Mhm. I think if Gala was approaching the market from the standpoint of, hey, the average game, if you want to get into the game and where you're paying for NFTs, and you could do that sub $100, $200, $300, and a high-end baller is maybe like 1,000, 2,000, something like that. That puts it within the realm of people saying, hey, look, I don't have to know what the earning model is. I just found the pricing strategy for how I can contribute in the game and get enjoyment out of owning my assets. But once you start going way above that, then it becomes a whole different thing. So that's why I think I'm hypercritical of what they're doing, because they're pricing it outside of just player-owned assets. They're pricing it in such a way that they're suggesting, or you would think, that there's more utility associated with it.
I agree with you. Hey, there's Jake from On Chain Gaming right there in the chat. If anybody wants to use his profile there, you can go right to his channel. Shout out to you, man. We love you.
Fantastic coverage of Galaverse, man.
So this is more gameplay of
the Miranda's
Grit.
developer interviews were great. But back to Grit.
In the Wild West, there are 2 kinds of fighters.
I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah.
Let's leave that to
There's 2 kind of fighters. That's it. There's only 2.
Sometimes
But
YouTube
speaking
can
of
pull a Red
two-
Bull.
But check out this transition. Speaking of 2, I think Galaverse on a macro level is hitting it from both sides. So you're going to appeal to people in the cryptoverse place that are speculative and betting on and can afford these, more or less, outrageous prices for just skins compared to what else is out there as far as assets you can purchase that have more utility. And then they're also appealing to the outside world, the traditional gamers, with just the title of play to earn, where you'll be able to earn a general description without any education on how you're going to actually do that. And it's probably not even necessary right now for the majority of traditional gamers to understand that. And to educate anyone in Web3 currently, it's kind of like, why should we do that? Because then they're more educated and maybe know their way around the space to then criticize us in a negative light, and then that would spread like a virus. So I it's not per se the way it would go down, but that's just how my mind, I guess, formulates how it would. And then so now we have Gala Games just appealing to the masses of traditional gaming to come in and to throw their money down like we did a lot of times with projects that we were excited about, that we got our emotionally, heartstrings pulled on, because we're not all seeing and all knowing of every possible outcome. But I could speak for myself, and maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, throughout the course of Gala, we've invested and we've put in and out, hundreds of thousands of dollars just amongst just the group here
Our guild
for
alone.
the Council of Rome. Yeah. And across multiple games, but Miranda's being the number one here, and we're still involved, and we're here for the long haul. It's just that the education is lacking on, I guess, specifically Gala and all the earning potential there is when it comes to any of their games and how it's going to work.
Shout out to my man Punjab from the chat. He says every game can have a circular economy. It's tricky when the token not. I think what he's trying to say here is that, like I was kind of saying, is that every game is not going to be a play to earn metaverse, and every game is not going to be profitable. I think what you hear us saying, Punjab, is that that's okay. It just needs to be clear. And I don't think they're not getting that point across very well. I'm still seeing people in various discords, the Gala Discord, as well as, other discords that I'm in, that, I meet other Gala people, and people are complaining sometimes about the price of these NFTs and what's going on with the value of certain things, various tokens, etc. And if they understood what was actually going on, they wouldn't be as upset as they are. So that means that there's a failure in communication.
Well, I think that there's a number of different breakdowns in communication, and one of them is transparency. And with that transparency, honesty, honestly, because last year I was pretty quick and consistently calling out Gala on the fact that you guys aren't anywhere even close to where you're telling people you are. You're not going to have an alpha this year. And we've seen that development essentially didn't start to this year. And we can tell by the server test plays. The last one, the one that we're going to show here that Jake walked us through, that we've got a clip from, that was nice. And you can tell that it's not blocky anymore. Pretty much everything about what they're creating in Miranda's has changed. And everything they were talking about up to that point had just been theory crafting, and nothing had really been penned. And so for that reason, it's kind of like they allowed the community to build up in their head what they thought was really going to be. And anytime we asked legitimate questions like, well, hey, what about this? We got pushback. And that was part of what was frustrating. At least now I can say that we see there's clear effort towards developing Miranda's, and it is moving forward now. You're
100% right. I think what happened there is we saw them painting themselves into a corner. And now they're in this corner where they have NFTs that they've sold for hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in some cases, that they have promise. They have promises out there for these NFTs, and now they have to figure out a way to deliver. And so now you're watching them try to work out of this corner they've painted themselves into in a lot of ways in Miranda. So we're seeing them not do this with these other games. Like with Grit, you're not seeing any play to earn promises. You're not seeing anything but, hey, it's on Epic Games. You're going to be able to play it. It's going to be great. And that's the perspective they should have been taken from day one, I think. But, obviously the Miranda's NFT sales help them get where they are. I mean, they're doing a lot of big, exciting things, and, I'm happy to see them do it. So, hopefully they do all the things and they're successful, in all the goals.
In the Wild West,
some of these screenshots are pretty impressive in the landscape. And of course, the nice thing
great.
that Gala is doing is they're leveraging development resources of other projects. They're kind of becoming the publisher, which means that you've got whole teams devoted to things like this that are completely separate from Gala's internal development.
And it's obvious that the money's not going to houses in the Bahamas. They're definitely reinvesting into the meat and potatoes of Gala. You got Gala Film, you got Gala Music. There were big updates. I think Jake covered a few of those as well, and that is really impressive. Also, I'm interested to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
trailer
interesting.
looks impressive.
I saw that little clip about some of the stuff they shared at Galaverse, through Jake's stream about Gala Chain. So that seems to be progressing, and that's going to be cool if they completely pull it off.
Absolutely. What else we got?
So that was Grit. There is another article that goes into a bit more of the details of it, like how it goes down. We can do that if you guys want to. So these gunslinger boxes, they're going to cost 600 for Galaverse attendees, as well as like the 8,000 ticket. And yeah, this
Do
is
we
the
know
horse.
much about the size yet? I mean, is it literally supposed to be a massive open world like Red Dead Redemption, or is it going to be more limited to just shoot 'em up battles between people?
I don't think we know.
Maps seem easier initially.
Mhm.
So this is the horse, and it was like a placeholder thing that didn't get replaced before the event. So they removed this now, and they're going to add something better because it kind of relates to all of the like Skyrim horse armor type stuff, where something is a ridiculous amount for something quite silly.
Will the horses be usable across multiverses? Will you be able to use your horse in Mirandus? One of the things they did say about probably not, because one of the things they did say about horses and Mirandus is McCarthy is kind of leaning towards the idea that horses die, which means horses probably age as well. So that is good for the horse breeding program. But it would be interesting again, because we're always talking about, wouldn't it be cool when you see NFT assets being able to cross worlds?
They could bring it over as a skin. That'd be the only way. You're right.
That makes sense.
Because horses
Yeah, I
have
just
to
wanna-
die in Miranda. So yeah.
Yeah, talking just a little like side note with Mirandus before we get to Zed Run. There was an interview that Jake was doing with one of the developers. I forget now, but
We have that lined up.
a question that Fancy had after I announced it or shared it in the Discord was like, is armor included? Because there was a mention how there won't be any NFT sales for weapons, or I think there was some. Yeah, there was weapons are not going to be bundle packages to be sold to the public as NFTs. So rest assured, you'll be playing Mirandus, and you'll have to craft. The only way you can get it is by buying it off of someone, or finding it from a boss raid, or crafting it yourself and selling it. But Fancy, armor wasn't mentioned. So is armor going to be sold at some point? That's the thing. There's not enough information that is coming from one source. Instead of like just maybe McCarthy mentioning everything that he knows for sure is solidified as fact that's going to take place. We're hearing different things from different people on the team, and it's kind of like not consistent. So there's the inconsistency here with what is or won't be. And I understand the marketing part of it, where we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket and give it all to the public, but the basics are needed, and these are pretty basic questions that should be answered going forward. Or should have been.
And to be fair, I mean, like I noticed in one of Jake's interviews, one of the developers was kind of saying some things that I kind of feel like McCarthy had gone against in the past. And I just took it with a grain of salt, because the fact of the matter is that the game's still in development, and I would rather devs feel comfortable just talking about their ideas than force them to be 100% accurate all the time when they're doing an off the cuff interview, because that just gives more excitement for the game, and it allows people to see where their heads are at. Just don't hold them to it. And I think that's very important, is we have to, people have to start giving these caveats out, like, hey, don't hold me to that. And he was clear about that in that particular interview. So we just want to see more of that, I think.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm absolutely looking forward to, and I don't know who's going to, it'd be an interesting wager, who's going to be first, but who is going to bring the first player run economy to a game, to where, I mean, Star Atlas is threatening to do it as they come in with Scream. They're going to have, they're going to go away from the model where you get your 4 hours to manage your ship to it's going to be all player created. In the world of, as Punjab was saying here, they'd make us think if any crafting was taken away and put in the store. We want to see the day where there is less developer store for things to purchase, and you actually have to acquire it from someone within the game. When we get that fully functional economy where it's all player based and player run, that to me is an exciting day.
We have a few good options out there on the horizon. It's everybody, the people who are building right now. It's their role to break. You got Miranda's, you got Star Atlas, you got Imposters. I think Elio Trades is doing real good on that. He's focused on exactly what you're saying. In fact, then you got the games like Zed Run, which I think we're about to go into. Which I was there. I've had a stable for a long time in Zed Run,
Right.
so I'm a big fan of that and the moves they're making.
So yeah, looking forward to what you share as we talk about Zed Run, because I know you've been had an eye on that for a while, and as you just mentioned, you've been following along on projects around Elio Trades and Becker and the things they've created, and of course, Neon Tokyo and then Imposters. So I'm curious, at some point in the future, hopefully you can kind of showcase on this show what your takeaway is and what you've learned as thus far about what's going on with those projects.
Yeah, actually, I actually got a chance to get into Neo Tokyo about a week ago, but I'm still like, I'm a noob. You know what I mean? So we'll get into it, and I think a lot of the stuff is not necessarily things that we share necessarily. So we'll see.
Cool. What else
So,
we got, Fan?
yeah, Bonafide, do you want to talk a bit about Zed Run?
Yeah. So, well, did you have that clip that you were going to go into first, or I'll just roll right in? So there you go. You got it. So, yeah, this is going on. So it's an interesting thing. We'll go through the Zed Run stuff, and then I'll go into the Genesis Curry flows, and then we'll kind of tie it all together. So you got Zed Run and Budweiser. So Zed Run is partnered with Budweiser. They partnered with NASCAR in the past, and they're releasing some NFTs that are obviously gonna work alongside the Zed Run ecosystem. And Zed Run, for those of you who don't know, is basically a horse betting game. So you take everything that you have in the real world as far as horses and racetracks, and you bring it into the metaverse, and you have Zed Run essentially. Pretty cool game, been out for a while. A lot of people have made a lot of money at it. Obviously, the markets are all down across the board right now, but that's the case with Zed Run. So this is the new NFT that Budweiser is dropping to go alongside Zed Run. The Budweiser Pass, and apparently you're supposed to be able to get some skins on your Zed Run's horses, which is what we were showing here in this in that video that Fancy had up a second ago. So basically, what you're seeing here is you're seeing the changing in branding deals in the metaverse. Is what you're actually seeing. So Budweiser, NASCAR using Zed Run, which is basically kind of in a way kind of turning into an esport at this point, right? And this is a branding deal, and they're continuing a branding partnership. And this is the beginnings of what you're going to see as far as branding in the metaverse. So stepping forward, you got the Genesis Curry flows. So I brought the Genesis Curry flows up months ago when they launched that NFT. And that was a shoe NFT that landed across a couple of metaverses at the same time. So you had, what was that, Jesse?
Sandbox, Gala, and were they actually in Decentraland as well? Was it all three?
Yes. Yeah. So you had you basically got your shoe drop, and you were able to mint a Decentraland, Sandbox, and a Gala version. I've been playing to earn with the Gala version this whole time. In the Decentraland version and the Sandbox version are live. So what's interesting now is you have that same NFT, which is the Steph Curry brand. I'm not sure who runs it for him because I haven't seen him really tweeting about this, but he's obviously, his name is on it and he's part of the organization. But so anyway, they have this new NFT coming out called the Basketball Heads. And so what's happening is you're able to go in there, and if you already had the shoes until the 19th, you're going to be able to mint these basketballs, and they're going to help you to be able to get into the Basketball Heads NFT. So you get one free one, and then as you're watching the game, every time Steph Curry, shoots a shot and wins or makes a shot, then you're able to rush in there, click on a link, and possibly get an airdrop basketball to you. So these are going to add up. And so what they're basically doing is they're gamifying the fans that are going to be watching Steph Curry play the game. And they're creating a community. He's basically creating an NFT community behind him playing basketball. So this is another branding thing because this is Under Armour, his brand, and now this new NFT Basketball Heads. So this is all coming out right now. And this is just you're watching the metaverse change in front of your eyes. This is a new way of building community, a new way of building brand partnerships. And I find it interesting. It's not necessarily a place where you're going to be able to, buy into these things and earn. The Steph Curry shoes in particular, if you bought them right away at the mint and you sold right away, then you made a lot of, you made a nice chunk. If you didn't and you waited till the subsequent shoes came out and you sold those, you could have made some money. If you just held on to yours like me and played to earn with it, you didn't make much. But now you have these other deals coming out where if you held them this long, you're going to be able to possibly you're definitely part of the future Genesis Curry Flows organization, and you might actually earn some NFTs off that in the future. We'll see.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Bonafide. So for the last piece of news, you guys may have heard of Apollo X. They were one of like the platforms Star Atlas used for their IDO. That was a hack over there, quite big. 1.5 million BUSD. Yeah. Just another day in crypto land.
Another day in crypto.
Yeah. They did a good job. That's a shame. And I think that leads us on to Star Atlas quite nicely. There was this week a really big reveal of the showroom. What did you guys think about it?
It was exciting. I spent the later half of the Twitter space. I guess the last quarter of what it was busy, but I jumped in, and there was, as always, community strong, but between the guilds and their leaders and their supporters jumping into spaces. You had Santi, Ash, you had Newt, right, and everyone was just sharing ideas. And at the end of the Twitter space, they released this on their Twitter, and yeah, we can probably check it out right now.
It definitely has another layer of polish on beyond what we've seen in past alpha drops like this.
Yeah, I was really impressed by it and a little surprised by it too. Let's give it a whirl.
Pre-alpha. Got the runway lights there. Pretty cool.
Extremely. And these consoles too, where you can interact.
Right. It's like a digital valet. You call up your ship. Comes right to the front lot.
Very impractical door.
And the nighttime is another cool element.
Is this the first time we see nighttime? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. First time seeing nighttime. Yep. The music is just encapsulating. Very engaging.
What do we think that is down below? What is that stream of stuff that is flowing out of the bottom there?
There's been a couple theories. I thought it was like
it's a booster.
Thruster from Booster.
So in other words, the way that this looks like when we see that broken rock, so it looks like this piece of land is actually floating somewhere, or it has jet propulsion so it can relocate and move. So it's not like it's on a planet itself.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Interesting plot twist. Your hangar is not stationary.
Right. Very cool.
Let's keep this on loop for a little bit. So there was some speculation about what the like that big rave thing underneath the showroom is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what was said in the foundation room. So is anyone else confused? People,
a Tufa-style asteroid is what they're saying.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed this joke. The showroom is on the way.
Yeah. So what do we know about showroom? We know showroom is slated to have a pretty hardcore release in October, but that doesn't mean that that's how long we have to wait till the first release, as Buntius has kind of alluded to. So there might be something sooner than that, and there will be 2 ships. I think it's pretty clear that one of the ships would be the Visus pod. Is there any guesses still for those listening and watching in, or from the rest of the hosts here? What do we think that second ship will likely be?
Most likely the X4, I reckon.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. You guys said that last week. I'm pretty sure it'll be a Pierce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really impressed by that. And another comment in the Foundation room was, what if they are using it to like stay in the same place instead of like trying to go somewhere? They're like orbiting around something, and that's how they stay in that orbit, because it is a massive piece of land when you look at it.
Yeah, last we had Chipto on, he said that the accuracy of reality when it comes to to space and how everything works up there as far as physics are concerned, maybe are going to be pretty realistic. So there has to be an explanation of some sort of how we're having a booster propelling potentially a big mass of rock, and there also being some gravitational pull. If it has its own orbit, then maybe you'll have these rocks orbiting, but they weren't moving. Like maybe there's a force field of some such that, I don't know. You could just go on and on, but we'd have to hear from the team to see what's really going on.
In Shipto, we trust. I've been very impressed with that guy, so I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear him describe it. I was quite flabbergasted trying to just then.
Yeah. Ghoulish 420, that is a legit question. It falls in that category of things people don't like to talk about. But the truth is the DAO could have been handled much differently than it has been. We've seen the price of that go down considerably from, I think, a high at one point of $18 to now it's barely kicking 50 cents.
We're at the all-time low.
Yeah. So folks feel that pain, especially for those that felt like, hey, you know what? Let me support this project when it's at that, in my case, I think most of my Polis was purchased around $8. So yeah, I'm feeling some pain right now. And so, yeah, I think it could have been handled differently. At the very least, they could have incorporated a very basic staking mechanism without incorporating a full DAO. And that would have at least kind of eased some of the pain for the folks that have been ongoing supporters. Not only that, there is additional concern that I have as a Polis holder, and that is that the message is starting to change. Wagner in Foundation Room is starting to shift that message to, hey, the DAO and Polis was never designed as an investment mechanism with return. It's more a way to support the project. At least that's kind of the way I've been reading the messages as they started to shift. And I don't think that's what most people that bought into Polis signed on for. So be curious to see how that changes.
Absolutely. I think, I've said it before, nobody's created a play to earn economy that works yet. So we're still in the beginning stages of all that. And we're seeing, the promises that have been made having to be adjusted as people hit those technological economic barriers to success in this path. So
right.
Hopefully they get it figured out in some way that's going to be satisfactory to the community. You know what I mean? That's really what matters the most, is that at the end of the day, the community is happy. If the community is happy, then things will keep being successful. If the community is not happy, then you have a dead game.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah. Shout out to the team for June on the June 10th. There was a development update article that was shared. So, there's good details and information on that with just the most recent updates. The lore is phenomenal. I'm still thinking Newt here is at the forefront of the lore there, and great job. The Jorvik history backdrop information is great, and it's just the lengthiness of it all is great for these times where you can actually read and feel like you're being taken somewhere else. They also have the weekly project report in the article. It shows the video we just played. They share information on the Galactic Marketplace, system polishing, the Scream version 1.0. So the DAO as well is also there with a high fidelity design that is completed. I don't know if I can't see the screen, but we have it popping up now.
Yeah, that's a bit clearer.
So work continues on the converting designs. So we have Tribeca and Goki audits completed. So that's great information that we've been longing for as a community. But Rome, I guess specifically, but overall, and then Atlas staking program is in internal review. So we got some upcoming activities that they're sharing is in corporate adjusted workflow metrics to better estimate the completion date. And then
And then the
Kudelski
security firm
starting their audit.
Kudelski.
Right. Yep.
Interesting.
And then send the Atlas staking programs. Yep.
I wonder if anything else has changed. It's quite hard to tell on this unless you look at every detail.
Right. I look out for the articles that are posted personally, and I'll check this out, here and there. But I see Twitter as the most active and first place as far as social media to be updated with a lot of things from projects. So that's my main go-to.
Yeah, I'm loading up the weekly report for the DAO, see what they say there. It's probably the same thing. Yeah, Tribeca Goki audit's complete. Cool.
Yeah.
Ray, you mentioned lore. So speaking of lore, we've actually done a pretty fantastic job. I'd say I'm pretty stoked about it. Is the lore that we've weaved into Star Atlas lore and Rome's origins. Being able to kind of share the origins of our guild, how our guild found our way to space, first contact, how we weaved our way into the ONI Faction storyline. So that's something that we've made available to the guild as of today, which is pretty cool. So if you are not already within the guild and you want to see what that looks like, go Rome.io, place to find that. And of course, if you're already a member of the guild, you will see that the PDF that shares some of our origin story and some of the Rome lore has been provided there.
Yeah.
What else we got?
So this week there was another partnership with Star Atlas between MoonPay. This allows people to pay with fiat. So I haven't looked into the particulars of how this works, but it seems like it's a step removed, where it'll be easier to access the game if all you want to do is just use your credit card.
That'll be interesting.
Dollars king.
It's a very important. It's a very important thing for all these games in the metaverse. In the beginning, especially, is going to be to get rid of that whole crypto wallet necessity in order to play the game.
Easy on ramps.
Yep, easy on ramp. If you want to participate in Web3, that's part of the progression, not the beginning of the story.
Yeah, I agree. There's a comment here by Michael Wagner. We're excited to partner with them to make joining the metaverse easier, which, I like that goal.
It seems like we're still on track for 500,000 Discord users by the end of the year. We're at 182,000 right now from what the numbers say on the official Star Atlas Discord server. And I remember Wagner saying that as one of the goals for this year on one of the interviews that he had. And then also for interviews, him and Buntius and the team are looking to ramp up on interviews again. There's been like a lull in seeing any of the teams and whether they're functional departments and the people who are heading those teams coming out for interviews like Chip or Wagner himself. So maybe we can get one of them back on sooner than later.
Yeah, it'd be great to. No new ships appearing on the marketplace this week, but it could be happening any day now. The Agrica Sick has been here about a week. We covered it last week, didn't we? Yeah. Awesome. Wonder what else Star Atlas has up their sleeve.
Cool.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk a bit about Copa, Jesse?
Absolutely. Let's dive into some Copa. So as you folks know that are involved in Star Atlas as a project, or whether you're a member of our guild, that Copa is underway. So what is Copa? It's you see right there in the screen, it's the Council of Peace Assembly. But what is it really overall? Well, it's a guild showcase competition. It's where the guilds of Star Atlas are invited to share their plans, their assets, their strategy, their business model, their competitive advantages, and all of those sorts of things. Well, we do know that 39 guilds, including Rome, did provide a submission to Copa, and there were 15 finalists. Now, as we can see here on the screen there, you might be thinking, where the heck is Rome? And the answer is Rome is not one of the 15 finalists. Now, that may come as a surprise to some, but I assure you it's not a surprise for the Rome leadership. And I'll share why. I want to remind everyone here that Star Atlas is a grand strategy game. And I emphasize the word strategy here. Space exploration, territorial conquest, and of course, political domination. Now, what Star Atlas was asking for as a part of COPA, as I've already mentioned, were some pretty sensitive information. And if we think of what COPA as a whole, it's bringing the Star Atlas community together. Well, the Star Atlas community at large, most of the people involved already have a guild affiliation. And so it's guilds kind of sharing information with other guilds. And the information that they were sharing doesn't really fall within our strategic outlook and our business model to openly say, hey, here's what we are, here's what we're doing. And so for that reason, we shared some very high level stuff. We shared an extensive document. That document mostly covered lore, but we did cover the basics. But again, as a reminder, we are Rome of the ONI Faction. And ONI represents stealth and technology and strategic diplomacy. And as we also shared some information about our command structure. But again, we are ONI and the game is afoot. So that being the case, why would we want to completely open kimono and share everything that we have planned for what we're doing? It just didn't seem like the play style is aligned with what we want to do. And so therefore, and by the way, it's there and open to see what we did share. For those of you that are members of Rome in the Discord, you will see that we did share the 20-page, what we're referring to as the COPA briefing. And so again, because the game is afoot, the game's being played, I will refer to the art of war and Sun Tzu. Be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious. I don't have that thing in front of me. I was actually reading that.
Sorry.
No worries. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. And thereby, you can be the director of the opponent's fate. And again, the game is afoot. You know, which comes from Shakespeare's play, King Henry IV, back in 1597. Why on earth would we want to tell everyone our game strategy when we can actually be sitting back and saying, hey, you know what? Let's have some popcorn and let everyone else tell us what they plan to do while we gather intel. Okay, so for us, COPA is more about intel gathering and less about sharing. Now, we'll say that, again, we did create a document, 20-page briefing. It gives a high-level overview of who Rome is, but this is public information. We didn't go beyond public information. We talked a bit about Rome's values and the niche within the game that we plan to explore. And our command structure. But again, that's fairly public. Our squad themes, our basic goals, and our primary guild rules of engagement. We spent the bulk of this 20-page briefing, and again, big shout out to Winston. 13 pages of that is dedicated to lore, and it's pretty cool lore, and it tells, again, that our origin story. So that was primarily our focus. And so that's what we're going to be doing most of COPA is intel gathering. We are very busy beneath the surface with our strategic alliances, with our intel gathering, with all of our plans for how to make the most of our guild and to leverage our structure to be able to take advantage of opportunities. But we don't exactly feel compelled to share that openly. One thing here as a side note is that for those that aren't participating in this Sell Your Guild showcase, we do have the option here to be able to spend an hour with the senior leaders of the Star Atlas Revenue Operations team to discuss how we can partner. And we do have some really exciting things, some big things, in fact, that we want to hold the IP for that really close because we expect it to be a huge part of what happens within Star Atlas. And we don't want to reveal that publicly, but we do want to have that conversation with Star Atlas and kind of form some partnership in some of the things that we want to develop for it. And I'll add one other thing with that here. I think that this showcase, for the most part, and they have guilds large and small. They've said that even the smallest guild that's a part of COPA has one person in the entire guild.
Yeah.
39 submissions, which I think is pretty interesting. But
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. For a lot of people, it's an opportunity that might be the only place they have to say, hey, look, come be a part of my guild. As with the case of Rome, we have a lot of other channels for how we do our marketing. We do lots of different outreach. We have the ability to do our marketing ourselves, as well as content creator outreach. And I think that at the height of growth within our guild, we grew by over 600 people in a single week. So we have the means to expand our reach beyond needing to do it within the confines of Copa. So it's an opportunity for us to learn from it for sure. So one other thing I'll leave you with here is another Art of War quote from Sun Tzu. We cannot enter into alliances until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. And you will note that for those who've been a part of our guild for some time, we have not been quick to establish alliances with people because, again, we don't know the playing field. We don't even understand completely what an alliance can mean. Have we had conversations? Absolutely. We've even met other guild leaders in person. So we have not been lax in that aspect at all. But we do form our alliances with strategy in mind. And I will just leak this little bit, is that there's a good chance that on the very near horizon, you'll hear about one of those rather large efforts towards partnerships and alliances that we've been working on for some time. So with that, again, we've got the Copa briefing, 20 pages. Most of that is lore. A lot of it, the rest of it's high-level overview. So it came as no surprise to us that we did not reveal enough to make the 15 finalists. And you guys want to add anything to that?
I just want to say that, as Metaverse Nomads and also as the guild called Rome, we've always been somewhat of the maverick kind of perspective, right? We don't necessarily go with the crowd. We kind of like to sit back and analyze and take our steps a little bit more carefully. But that doesn't mean that any of you other guilds out there need to be, feeling like you shouldn't be sharing a whole lot of information out there. Go ahead and feel free to share as much as you want. It's all about, community building and love at the end of the day, so we're excited to see all the submissions.
That's actually a legit strategy. There's some folks like,
shout out to every, for sure.
I was going to say, for example, LFA Industries, who we've got good relations with, they want to be shipbuilders. They want to kind of follow the line of peace-loving shipbuilders. So in that case, transparency is a beautiful thing. Why not? If you're wanting to make friends with everyone, open kimono with your model. So there's instances where that makes a lot of sense. But if that is not a direct part of your strategy, as in our particular case, we want to hold things a little bit closer.
Yeah, very well said. Diplomatic and stealthy, just like Oni.
Just like Oni.
What else we got?
Yeah, so that was Star Atlas. We're past the hour mark, but yeah, we're on target.
Right on point.
Okay. Do we want to pivot into the Illuvium deep dive?
I believe we do. So here's an interesting thing. So as we look at the whole landscape of blockchain games and play to earn, we've been doing this show now for just about a year. It's almost been a year exactly now. This is like, we've done this without fail every week. And this is episode 46 of Metaverse Nomads. We had about 6 or so to maybe as many as 8, but probably like 6 episodes of Mirandus Gentry when that was our focus prior to that. So we're almost on point with that year mark, like almost like spot on. And so within that time, there's been a couple of projects that we focused on pretty heavily. We've shared a bunch of different other projects. We've talked about Axie. We've talked about Peg Axie. We've talked about DeFi Kingdoms. We've had lots of guests on the show covering a lot of different projects. But I would say the 3 core that we focused quite a bit on has, of course, been, it started with Mirandus for most of us. And then a lot of our focus shifted to Star Atlas. And then one of the other ones that we haven't talked a lot about on the show, but we've paid attention to, and that is Illuvium. And so we want to talk a little bit more about Illuvium because they have some progress. They have some things that are moving the ball forward for them. And one of the things that I find most interesting about Illuvium is that I've said this in conversation with people over the past couple of weeks. I kind of, many ways, feel like they're the darling of the industry. And the reason I say that is because they've moved strategically. They have some incredible backers. They have one of the most fantastic tokenomics models that I've seen. They have a very open development model where they've been constantly sharing with their community all of the stuff they're building from models of the world. There'll be times where you can just hang out and listen to some cool music and a DJ and watch the developers work. They've done a bunch of cool stuff, and almost everything they've touched thus far has come across so smooth, including their last land sale. So I figured it was time to kind of say, hey, let's devote an episode to kind of focusing on Illuvium. The only thing that we didn't do that we definitely want to do in the future is we need to get someone on here directly from their core team to talk about their project and what they're doing. But without that, we do have some things to go into. We're going to kind of give a little bit of a high-level overview, share some resources, some of the things that we're looking at. And I'm even going to share with you directly, like, what I've done in the project, show you how I've staked the land that I just grabbed recently, and just kind of show you around. So there's not really any direct defined order to this other than we just kind of want to say, hey, let's have a conversation about Illuvium. Here's what we know. And some of you may be taking part in it. If so, feel free to share your thoughts and comments as we go along. With that, let's go ahead and get started. So Illuvium. Look at those creatures. One of the things I do like about this, and I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts, their artwork is fantastic. The 3D modeling, and it is true AAA gaming style. In fact, I was talking to Fancy Head about this before the show. So much of what they're doing looks like it was created for console. It's so polished. But yeah, this is just a shot of some of the mini alluvials, as the creatures that you will be battling are called. We've got a bunch of different classes, but look at this, just the detail and the color. They've just done a pretty fantastic job of it. And for those that are new to this project, the overall concept, as you're witnessing here, is an arena battle. It's at its core, I guess it really is card-based, almost like Pokemon, where you have creatures that have different affinities, different classes, and you get to choose the collection of class affinity add-ons and things like that gives you a unique play style. And there's such a variation, as we've seen in other games like Axie, which a long time during development people were trying to compare the two, and there may be some comparisons, but at least with the 3D model that we're looking at here, it really looks like a polished style of battle arena gameplay.
Yeah, auto battle, it's a bit simpler than Pokemon. What you place down, you don't have to control while the round's in action. It's strategic in a way because when you have quite limited controls, it really matters what you do with them.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's very, very, very similar to card-based, right? Or very close.
Yeah, it is. But like the things come alive and attack each other. There is a lot of RNG,
they just showed that card selection there, so you've got a bunch of different cards to draw from. And so I would imagine, well, I'm not on the beta list. There's about 7,000 beta players right now. We'll share more about that in a minute, but it is pretty cool the way that you can kind of formulate your strategy. And as you see here, this is a good image because it kind of shows you that not only are there something like over 100 alluvials right now, but each alluvial has an evolution path. So like in the bottom left corner there, we see a scorpion, and we see 3 different variations of evolution. We see that for a fire creature behind it. Same thing for water and many of the others. So there's an aspect of it to where you get to kind of evolve your alluvials and also combine affinities. There's just so many, there's a lot of levers that you can pull to be able to identify your unique gameplay strategy. And I think that's a pretty cool element of the game.
Yeah, I agree.
Not to pull you off track here, Jesse, but Punjab had a really good comment from the chat. So I don't pay much attention to Illuvium. I would really like to know if there is a goal to have players put more into the game than taking out. It's an economy question. Do you guys think it will work? And you and I have talked about this extensively in the past as far as there not being a real play to earn economy yet, and how basically right now they're all kind of Ponzi's until that point where they are able to produce some kind of lasting value, whether it's GDP type of format or just always bringing new players into the game continually.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think that is what the whole industry is scrambling to sort out. What it looks like at a very high surface level. And the truth is, I'm not an expert. I don't have all the answers for Illuvium, but the way that they're putting it together looks like you will be able to battle for ETH. You'll be able to wager not just on the battles that you're in, but on other battles as well. So there's a wagering mechanic where you're actually winning ETH for your battles, and you're able to wager on other people's battles as well. Then they have a siloed component of land, and land within the open world of Illuvium kind of looks like a Command and Conquer kind of layout. And with that land, and we're going to cover this, so I'll just be real brief with this. Within that land, you're able to harvest resources in the form of elements and fuel. And these are things that are needed for the actual gameplay that you need for your alluvials. So they seem to have built this creative world that makes it so that they're aiming for sustainable. And yeah, wagering is cool, and that will work. That seems to be the element that will actually make it a little bit different about how you can earn, rather than having the Ponzi structure where you need to keep feeding more and more people in. But with the whole idea of land, we don't really completely know what the open world side of it is going to be. But in addition to being able to harvest resources, you're also able to scan your land for alluvials, for blueprints. So they're adding a lot of different components. But I think the thing that tells me most that this is not a dev team that is simply saying, how can we create more money for ourselves, is the token mechanics. And we'll cover that in just a moment, but it's pretty impressive. And I honestly don't know of another project at this scale that is doing that sort of thing. So let's get into it. I think some of the questions that were asked will be answered as we share a bit more. So earning while playing. Earn crypto in ILV, which is the main token. It's a governance token. They have another variation called SILV, which is more like a rewards card where you're actually using that ILV, but only within the game ecosystem. So you are completing PvE quests, you're performing special achievements, and you win prizes in tournaments and events. Then, of course, on the wager on battles, as I just mentioned, you're able to participate in and wager on matches in the Leviathan Arena, a PvP battle arena where players can battle each other to prove who is the strongest ranger on Illuvium. So it can be pretty cool. They have different elements that they have. And the other thing that's pretty nice about this to me is simplicity. They're not trying to go so many different directions with mechanics. They're trying to keep it fairly simple in the beginning. And I like when projects do that. You know, undead blocks, one of the things that we had as a guest on the show a while back. And that's one of the things I liked about what they were creating, is that there seemed to be a lot of simplicity in the initial stages of gameplay. If you want complexity, develop that later on, or be a grand scale MMO like Mirandus or Star Atlas, where your planning is going to be years out. But if you want something that's playable right now, give us something that has much of their model based in simplicity. So what do they have in form of NFTs? Well, they have Illuvatars, which are, for the most part, exclusively cosmetic. It's your profile picture, but it has a lot of different variations for what it can be, like a billion different variations. There's some talk of potential utility, but for the most part, it's cosmetic. Then you have your alluvials, which are the actual battle creatures that you're using within the game. And then you have land, which is where you're harvesting resources that are needed for overall gameplay. So that's kind of the trading on the market model that Illuvium has as a whole. Just some of the things that might be of note is their Discord has 211,000 members. Current price of the token is $220. Max supply is 10 million, but that is a decreasing max supply, as you will see here in a moment. Some of the things they're doing with tokenomics is pretty fascinating. Just a quick tease on that is this last land sale depleted the max supply by 2.5%. ILV at its all-time high was 1844, just to give you an idea of how the run-up has been during the bull market compared to where it is now in the bear. Websites from resources for you. The main website is illuvium.io. The white paper can be found at docs as the illuvium.io subdomain. And Illuvadex is where the Immutable X marketplace can be found, where you can purchase land and eventually some of the other types of NFTs. Now, when looking at projects, I mean, especially in the scope of all of the different projects that are out there, how do you really stay on top of the ones that are worthy of attention? I got to tell you, when I was doing a quick scan on this, when it was shared with me, one of the things that caught my eye was the key partners and the who's who list of private investors. That kind of gave me a sense that hey, if there's going to be this quality and caliber of people that are stamping their name on a project, which we don't see too often, we see it from time to time, but not as to me as blatantly as this. It's like, all right, I'm curious what they're doing, and that led me to explore their tokenomics a bit more, and that's honestly where I got pretty excited.
Yeah, we've been following Illuvium for a while, and every day there's just another update, something new. It's quite hard to keep track. Like every asset they create, there's something in the Discord for it.
Indeed. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the main trailer for those of you that haven't seen it.
We've come a long, long way together, through the hard times and the good.
So, interesting trailer there, but it's one of the things about trailers is that this has been a year of trailers, meaning like so many of the projects are showing us what the game can be because they're not yet fully prepared to show us what the game will be and is with actual gameplay, but they've actually moved to that progression where they have shown gameplay. So I did want to show that trailer just because it really kind of shows, hey, kind of what the team is aiming for. And one of the things that they've done incredibly well, I think, is the design of the game world. It's very original and it's unique, right down to the plants the terrain, the rocks, the different regions, all the space that you find within the game world. And the regions actually are quite diverse, as you'll see when we talk a little bit more about the land regions. There are 7 regions for land. They're all very different. You've got some that are related to water, like Halcyon Sea. You've got some that are very fire-based, some that are earth-based, some that are very lush and green. And so it is pretty diverse. And even within those regions, they still actually have a bunch of different sub-regions and places that are pretty cool. So, yeah, from that point, the standpoint of the open world, there's a lot to be desired about it for sure.
Yeah, I really like the look of the MMO open world game. This is also something we looked at a while back. This clip right here. Does it load? Yes. It's like a speedrunning course. And it's just testing all the mechanics at work, no textures or anything, but looks really fun. Imagine they'd be able to do something like this now with everything they have in, especially all these like tiny holes you have to jump through. I think races would be quite fun.
I love when developers create these gym levels that really kind of show the mechanics of what the character is going to be able to do. Yeah,
pretty cool. I like this one a bit more than Miranda's one, honestly, because it has more potential. Like jetpacks are really awesome.
Jetpack flight.
Yeah. It'd be fun to explore all these zones and see all the different types of Illuviums in them.
Yeah.
I have to say, if nothing else, NFTs are definitely making us be a lot more involved in how games are developed. Back in the day, they would do this kind of stuff, but I'm not sure that they would get as many people watching them for different games as they are now, that they're NFT games or playing games.
Well, we've seen an interesting progression of gaming. It used to be back a long time ago that game development happened in a very closed loop bubble. And then after a while, it moved to where you had like Steam community, where there was early release to where the game was full of bugs and not polished, but then the community could give feedback. From there, it moved to when then we saw some games that were funded by Kickstarters. And then, of course, if you're going to kickstart a game, then you kind of have to keep your supporters. You have more of a responsibility to let your supporters know how development is going. And then now that is even extended even further to NFTs, where, we did help you with your capital raise. And so hopefully you are going to share with the community where you're at in the process. So there's been interesting progression over the history of gaming to where we are now.
Yeah, I agree.
So just a couple of quick notes before we actually share some stuff. And there's a fantastic site we'll give a shout out to here in a moment as we look at some of their stuff. But there's about 7,000 beta players. And as the back end becomes more confident and more stable, they are opening up more beta spots. So that's about the load right now, is about 7,000. They've got hundreds on the team. So the team continues to grow over there at Illuvium, and they are busting their ass with 12-hour days, 6 days a week. The other thing that's of note is that Illuvium 0 is slated for about 4 weeks out, probably almost 3 weeks out now, because it was supposed to be 4 weeks from the end of the land sale, which was a week ago. So that's kind of where things are at now. So what I want to do is just kind of take you over to a third-party site. It's not. We'll look at Illuvium site here in just a moment, but I want to go to Infoluvial, which is I'm assuming it's a community, someone within the community that created this site to be able to share a bit of info about the project in Illuvial. So this just kind of gives you an idea of some of the creatures within the world. You can see down here, you've got the affinity and then the class. Now I'll make this a little bit larger. I don't need it that large. Go back a little bit. There we go. So in this particular case, we've got Atlas, who's probably one of the first developed, one of the most known water alluvials. And Atlas is, of course, has a water affinity, but he's of the Bulwark class. So that's their class. And then, of course, you hover over, you get to see a little bit more about them and their stats. So you've got the 6 stats on the bottom. You've got their affinity and their class up top. Stage 1, remember we talked about evolution. And then you've got tier 1. And then just a bit about each of them. And then you get over here and you've got Archie, who's the first stage of this particular beast for that's of the nature class. You've got some down here that are related to fire, some more related to water, but great variation and beautiful design. So that's what you have to work with for your creatures.
Yeah,
and again,
I agree. There's a
this
load
site-
of information on this site as well.
Mhm.
Insane amounts.
This
I believe,
particular look at this anteater looking one here. Looks pretty cool.
I believe it's fusing, not evolution, because you have to like put more than one in. So you put like 3 level 1s in for 1 level 2.
Yeah, fuse is definitely more accurate. Yep.
Perfect.
This thing here next to it looks like a chicken. He's air-based. So that's under the Illuviary itself. So those are the alluvials that will actually be your combat creatures that are NFTs. Then from there, as I mentioned, there are affinities. And those affinities are everything from air, water, earth, fire, nature. And then there's some variations of that. For example, underwater, you've got frost and tsunami. Air is tempest. So you have those. And then they're also combined in a synergy that allows for more diversity in what you can create as a creature to combat. Because we all know in a lot of battle arena games, there's certain builds, and this goes the same for MMORPGs. There's certain builds that have certain strengths. And to be able to combat that strength, you need another type of build that is prepared to combat that particular one. So that becomes a strategy of, what do I want to build for this other tank of sorts that I come up against a lot in my arena battles? So this is just really goes into a deep dive into different aspects of those affinities. It goes through the base ones, and then it actually gets down to where eventually it starts showing you combinations and what those create. There's that. And as I mentioned, there's also classes, Bulwark, Empath, Fighters, Scion, and then different variations of each of those classes as well. So that just adds another layer of complexity to your battle strategy within the game. We don't know too much about these. Go ahead, Fancy.
It's very similar to like Teamfight Tactics. There's lots of different ways you can design these type of games. They've gone through like 8 different meta rotations and balances with Teamfight Tactics now. So I assume this will need like a lot of fine tweaking. But they have been beta. They have been in beta for a while now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it.
Indeed. I don't know too much about the augments or how you come about them, if these are things that are minted via blueprints, but there are different things that can further augment the abilities and power of your battle creatures, your alluvials, so that kind of lends towards just yet another element of complexity.
It says 12 gold, I think that is. So it looks like something you can purchase in game to give your things buffs, and it probably gives a like certain chance of like RNG just on based on what you get. So
right,
yeah,
that would make sense. So that kind of leads us to land within the world of Illuvium, and land is basically going to be comprised of resource gathering and buildings that allow you to do certain things within the land. And as we've seen, the land kind of has that command and conquer type of look and feel to it. What else can we tell you about the land itself? Fuel is going to be a significant component of the game. It's going to be required for a lot of things, and fuel is harvested by the different tiers of land. And land is also utilized for resources. There's different types of resources that come from the different regions, different resources from a water type world to earth type region or a fire type region. So those are the two things that you're harvesting is elements and fuel. And then also you're using your buildings to scan for alluvials, which then provides you blueprints. That's as much as I know at this time about the land itself. The land is broken up into regions. As we can see here, there's 7. Taiga Boreal, Abyssal Basin, Brightland Steppes, Shardbuff Labyrinth, Crystal Shores, Crimson Waste, and Halcyon Sea. And the resources that you get from each are going to be a bit different.
Yeah, looks very fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Very Avatar-esque, the movie. In some of them, anyway. So there's that. Also, there's different building types. I don't know too much about these again, but the buildings go along with producing the type of minerals that are to be found on your land. So there's that, and there's also resources, the types of resources, which are the elements that you can find in the different regions as well. So with that, one of the things I wanted to do is just kind of show you a little bit about how I approached Illuvium, which has been very minimal because obviously the game's still in beta. I don't even have beta access, but it's been nearly a year. I guess it was around August of last year when I first started looking at this project. If you come over to the Illuvium.io site, you can see here that they've got a number of things that they keep adding, like the Illuvidex is fairly new, Illuvium main site, staking, playing is of course the Illuvium beta. They do have the Illuviary coming, which is of course where you can see information on the Illuvials themselves, as well as a gallery and information about governance.
Is the beta live now?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to sign up. They're increasing capacity as we speak. If you hold Illuvium, I believe they said you'll be able to get in.
And any idea about a game launch at all? Or no date, just still?
Well, there's going to be like many different components of it, and they're all quite simplistic, but combined together, there's like complex ecosystem. So, yeah, it depends which part you're waiting for.
Are we going to have some like actual gameplay this year, or are we looking at 2023 for this one?
Oh, I mean, the beta is, beta is already under play. You can see gameplay and actually beta play on various YouTube channels and also within the Discord. So the beta is actually functional and underway now. They're just adding, there's 7,000 beta players. So they're adding to that as they gain more stability within the gameplay itself.
Right on.
So on the site itself, if we come over to staking, we can see that you're able to stake your Illuvium. They've upgraded recently to staking version 2.0. And within staking, they give you a pretty clear dashboard about what's going on, total amount that's been staked, which right now is about $500 million. The current price, it's gone up $7 since earlier today, but it's still down quite a bit from its all-time high of 1,800. You can see your rewards. You can see the amount that you have staked. If we go to my dashboard, I can, again, because I just wanted to be somewhat transparent on here, about August of last year, I put in probably, I don't know, I guess around 10 to 12 ETH, which at the time was like 30 grand. And so my total portfolio value right now, even in a down market, is about 41 and some change. You can see what your, what was originally 30 for me here. And of course, the SLP between ETH and ILV is now down about 16. It's almost half of where I started, but I also have 24,000 in rewards from the time that I've been staking. The staking rewards right now for me is about a third of a Illuvium a day, which is about $66 at the current price. But here's where things get interesting. So this last land sale, oh, and by the way, let me add this. So again, that total value right now for me is about 41, and I've got about 3 Illuvium and rewards to claim, and I'm not claiming them. The last time that I claimed it as SILV, which is the in-game currency. Because if we go over to vesting, we can see that now when you stake the SLP version, which is the combination of your ETH and ILV.
Yeah, it's a dual token for the liquidity pool.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say. It's locked up and you can do 30, 60, 90. It used to be there wasn't a lockup, but now you get more rewards based on the lockup. And so being that I've had this locked up since August last year, it begins to free up at different time frames going forward. And then, of course, my main investment here is about 10 days that I've still gotten that. So
what are the rates right now? I believe it says in rewards. Or
yeah, let's take a look.
Staking, that's it.
For the ILV pool, which means that when I get my ILV as rewards and I restake it, it's at 16.7 APR or 18 APY. And then if you're doing the dual token ILV ETH pool, it's about 196. It started up almost near 600 almost a year ago. But as I mentioned, the rewards still aren't bad in the sense that from what I have in, it's still about $66 a day for it. So that's where the staking and rewards, what it looks like. Now you have the chance when you want to claim, you can claim it as ILV and you're committed to a year lock. So you have to put that back in for a year, as you saw with my vesting schedule. Or you can claim it immediately in SILV, which is for in-game use. And that was interesting because on this land sale, I'm like, okay, well, I've got 21 of them sitting there. That's roughly 3 ETH, I think it was. So I said, well, let me use that, the SILV, for the land sale. That way I'm using only rewards to get some land. And so that was how I chose to go about it. So what did that end up meaning? So if we come over to the Lubidex, which means it's sitting on immutable X, which therefore also means that that is their way of a layer 2 to reduce dramatic ETH gas fees. And in that process, if we come over and look at the assets that I ended up purchasing for that, I ended up getting 4 pieces of land. They did a Dutch auction where all of they had tier 1 through tier 4. Tier 5 is going through a normal traditional auction. But tiers 1 through 4 went for, the tier 1 started at 2 ETH and went down 2.5% per minute from there. And then the tier 2 started at 6 ETH, tier 3 started at 20 ETH, and tier 4 started at 80 ETH. And so with my essentially 21 SILV, or the equivalent of 3 ETH, I was able to wait out the Dutch auction and pick up 1 tier 2 and 3 tier 1s. So a number of different ways that people are going about this strategy wise. One of the methods I could have gone about is to get 2 tier 2s, maybe try and wait out 1 tier 3, or to get a whole bunch of tier 1s. What's the significance of that? Well, each one of them has particular resources on it, and they also come from a particular region. This one has 3 lake elements and 1 Krypton Rift element. So those are the things that I can harvest from this particular tier 1. So you basically get 4 total resources from a tier 1, 3 elements, and 1 fuel. If I was to come back here and look at that tier 2, with that, you're getting a 33% fuel production boost, but you're also getting 3 fuel sites, and you're getting 6 element sites. Now, one of the things about the land sale itself, and I wonder if we can actually go to the map for that. I think we can.
Yeah,
So
the map is awesome.
Yeah, it's completely sold out, but here's the map itself, which shows the 7 regions, and you can zoom in on that map, and you can get all the way down to looking at a specific plot of land on it. Now, again, I did mention that it did sell out, but the secondary market, there's actually deals to be had on there. Now, one of the things that's kind of been hinted at is that you can build what are called mega cities, which means that you can get a 4x4. If you can get all the land plots for 4x4 or 3x3 for a total of 9, the benefits are that the resources and abilities of the connected land are shared with each other. So let's say, for instance, you need a particular building style to scan for an alluvial. You would only need 1 across your whole mega city. Whereas if you have, like me, 4 different plots of land, I have to have that scanner on each of my land plots. Something else, just as a note, that was a part of my particular strategy, was because one of the benefits of having a variety of different lands is that you have the potential for blueprints for alluvials. I ended up grabbing different regions. I've got 1 in the Taiga Boreal, another one in Crystal Shores, another one in Halcyon Sea, and another one in the Abyssal Basin. So again, while I don't have a complete in-depth strategy because I'm going based on the limited information that I have and what's been shared, that's my idea. And I've been following along with a number of other people that are saying, hey, I want to kind of spread my reach through 4 of the 7 regions and try to be able to mint blueprints for different types of alluvials.
Yeah, it's always tempting to spread your bets. You could have got a, what is it called, a megacity. That's quite cool.
Right. That would be interesting. So if we come over here to trade, and right now, because if I was to filter by only what's available, they're all sold out. But if we go to look at buy now, this is just give you an idea what the floor is now. So we'll go buy now, and we'll go price lowest. And so the floor right now for tier 1 is about 640 equivalent USDC. And I think the floor on a tier 2, see if we can find the first one. There's actually quite a bit now under, and this is actually with the way the market's been, it's gone down a little bit. There's quite a few under 1,000, which means there's, again, none of this is financial advice. It's just my own venture into the world of Illuvium, just sharing with you what I've learned along the way. But this also gives people the opportunity to see if they can find perhaps 4 to create a mega city that are near each other. And that basically means they'd be what? Something like sub $4,000 for a mega city, if they're able to find that. So again, I don't have a whole lot more than that to kind of share. But just if there's any questions that anyone has, or if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to, hear what you've got.
Yeah, there was quite a cool comment before about apparently they announced they're switching to Unreal Engine 5. I hadn't heard that, but it was one of the main things I had in like Star Atlas's favor in contrasting the two.
That was actually always my understanding. Was there what other engine were they building on?
Unreal Engine 4, I believe. That's I remember hearing that a long time ago.
Yeah, that would make sense to make that transition, because the thing we know about Unreal Engine 5 is that the way that they go about the nanites and the technology that is being built out, it is so much easier on resources. So that means to be able to have a AAA game with such fantastic graphics, cinematic quality, you're not having to go out and get like a top tier gaming rig. So that's a big deal. And it invites more people to gameplay.
Yeah, that is
sure.
cool.
One of the things I'd mention is that they're doing some interesting stuff with tokenomics. And so with that, there's actually wanted to share this. Let me see if I've got it here. A quick video that, first of all, I want to share this on land sale. There were 20,000 plots that were sold. All of those are gone. Total value sold was 72 million, which is the equivalent of 40,000, I guess it looks like ETH. But a lot of that was actually in SILV as well, as you can see over here. Total value sold and total value in SILV, and then all together. So that was how the land sale went. And the thing that was kind of unique about the land sale, and I wish there was a way to kind of show that, but you were able to, in this Dutch auction, be able to explore all the different regions, look at the stats of each piece of land, and it was an impressive NFT mint, a sale. And I say that for a number of reasons. One was that we know that one of the big challenges with NFT launches on Ethereum is the insane gas fees. And they mitigated the issues with gas incredibly well. There was one instance where I paid 120 gas fees, and I was prepared to pay up to 300. That's kind of like I'm trying to figure out, like, what am I really willing to pay for this, and what could gas fees do? 3 of the 4 pieces of land that I got, I paid less than $20 in gas fee for. And one of them jumped up to about 120, but it still balanced out because the gas fee went high, the Dutch auction went lower. So I still ended up paying less, actually, when the gas fee did go up, than I would have had the gas fee not spiked right then. But they did a fantastic job of having a smooth mint, communicating with the community, and being able to mitigate big spikes in gas fees.
Yeah, I can imagine that becoming like a standard.
Right? I mean, yeah, all the industry is learning from each other. I got a quick clip here that I wanted to share with you from the leadership team talking about tokenomics and distribution, because I think it's pretty relevant, and I want to show you what was the result of this last land sale.
Revenue distribution.
There's
And how does somebody take part in this? You got to break it down.
All right. So the really, really cool thing about revenue distributions, a lot of people, if you don't go deep into it, then, and on the surface, it sort of looks like, okay, they're going to take all of the in-game transactions and they're just going to send that out to the people who are staked in the protocol proportionately. That is true. However, there's one more mechanism there which gets me really, really excited, because you got to remember, this has never been done before, certainly not at this scale. You know, I've been in a lot of protocols and I haven't seen this before. essentially what we're doing is we're taking all of that ETH from the in-game fees, and not just the in-game fees. We're talking about the Illuvium Zero fees. We're talking about merchandise fees. We're talking about sponsorships, absolutely anything that makes revenue inside the Illuvium ecosystem goes inside a vault. Now, periodically, that vault will trigger and it will purchase ILV off the market. Now, why that's so exciting, right, is because if you think about it, if you look at like some of the other games out there that are live now, the revenues that they're generating, and they don't even have things like skins and enhancement and infusing and revival and like the 50,000 other in-game transactions that we have, well, then that vault is then going to, the smart contract is then going to buy all of that ILV off the market. Now, yes, that gets distributed back to the stakers in the protocol. And yes, it is unlocked, but the idea is you're already accustomed to the staking protocol for the last 6 to 12 months. So you receive this ILV and you've got a decision to make. You can either sell it to cash in and go, okay, I made my dividend, and it effectively, what you sell compared to what we bought, if everyone sold, it should even itself back out, right? Theoretically. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's going to be a large percentage of people that want to compound their ILV reward.
So what does that actually mean in the real world? So with this last Illuvium a sale of land, this is what it looks like. They're going to burn 239,388 SILV, which reduces the total supply of ILV, which is right now 10 million, which is fairly low for a project in the grand scheme of what a lot of the projects in their governance token. That lowers the total supply by 2.39%. And we know what happens as supply gets smaller, demand goes up. And 4,018 ETH that were made during the land sale are going to be used to purchase ILV back off the market for distribution to stakers. To me, this is pretty amazing. And I think it's one of the things that makes the tokenomics within Illuvium pretty unique. So that's...
I'm looking forward to that revenue distribution.
Right?
Nobody knows when it's coming, apart from the dev team, I guess.
Right.
Unless they made it like some completely random thing. But that's just going to pop into people's inventory if you're staking relative to like the amount total. So, yeah. Indeed.
So just a quick summary here. I mean, Illuvium as a whole, they've got a survival mode. How far can you go? Kind of like PvE. They've got arena PvP. They've got Illuvium Zero, which is the land resource harvesting of both elements and fuel. We've got open world where you go and get, alluvial discovery. And they have Illuvatars, which are for the most part PFP cosmetics. So a couple of thoughts here I want to leave you with is that this is not a pitch. This is not me or the show. We're not sponsored or anything. We're not shilling Illuvium. When I look at the industry at large, I want to look at the projects that I think that are influencers, the ones that are moving the marker, the ones that are influencing other projects and moving the industry forward for the betterment of gamers and the community as a whole. And I think that Illuvium as a project is doing a lot to kind of meet that. Their tokenomics are very community centric rather than, instances where you have the developer that's bringing in a lot of money for themselves. The gameplay development is beautiful design and the way that they're approaching their launches and things. They're well thought out. You can just tell by the fact of how smooth they go. To have a smooth mint of any kind these days is a super challenge. You run the minefield of hacks and attacks and just normal crap that can go wrong. And it really makes a company shine when they're able to navigate that minefield, that gauntlet of challenges and pull it off to where it looks pretty smooth. So again, not financial advice. Do your own homework. I normally don't open the kimono and say, hey, here's what I've done myself. I've only done that for the purposes of giving you some real world kind of hey, here's how it's gone. Here's what I initially put in. Here's what the bear markets can do to your holdings. Here's what I got in rewards. Here's how I use my rewards to buy some land. no idea what the future of this project is. All of it is a risk because we're all pioneers in this early stage of NFT blockchain gaming. But at least, again, this show's about exploring what's out there. So figured it was a good time to share what Illuvium's doing. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I think
Focuses on fun and economics, two of our favorite things.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting. You know what I mean? There's a lot of projects that are still working, still putting out stuff this year, and I think that's very important when you look at the market being down the way it is, because in my opinion, and obviously this isn't financial advice, but in my opinion, the projects that are building through and launching, especially in the bear, are the projects that are going to do that much better in the next bull run. That was particularly, in my opinion, part of the success of Axie Infinity was the timing. They weren't expecting the success they were going to have and the explosion that they created with the metaverse, but it happened because of the timing. They were there in the bear market and guys were playing the game and they loved the game. And then in the bull run, they got tested in a new way.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, riding these cycles and who's going to last the test of time.
In gaming terminology, they opened a developer loot box and they got an unexpected gift of the whole scholar program thing. So
yeah,
that obviously was not planned to that degree, but it moved the marker forward for the industry as a whole to show what is possible.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was talking about metaverse before that. So
yeah,
awesome. So that was Illuvium. I guess we can show these more recent updates to what they've been doing now. This
cool.
is I'll just let it speak for itself. Really awesome, like interactable environment.
Such a good looking game.
Mm-hmm.
This is the part where I was saying that, man, there's so much of what they're doing in the mechanics that almost has some console type polish to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be the best looking one that we've been talking about.
Yeah, they just show so much.
And I'm curious how, like in that particular instance, you saw that you have a character, which is your personal avatar, it seems to be, and then you have this little helper bot. I don't completely understand its role, but it seems to be following you around as kind of like a personal assistant. Maybe it carries your resources. Maybe it's doing the gathering. Maybe it's helping you with scanning for alluvials to be able to find them or track them down. Don't know.
I believe it can mine as well. Yeah, it's like it appears quite a lot in just all of the videos. Here's another one, for example. This is the Leviathan Arena where all the big PvP matches will happen.
Very cool. Yeah, and the other thing I like about it too is that, man, I am itching to get into a game and really get in some good gameplay. I'm totally looking forward to Scream, of course. And so, now, man, as soon as I get I'm on the wait list for beta for Illuvium. And of course, as soon as I get that, of course, I'll share some gameplay here on the channel. But I'm excited to actually see some of these things come to life and us move a bit out of the ideation phase. That's great, especially for the long-term projects that require that kind of effort. But I'm also looking for some of the simpler, quick-to-market, playable, play-to-earn style games to show up and say, hey, play and earn now. And so I think this is one that is probably going to meet that criteria pretty soon.
Yeah, it's Illuvium Zero. It looks quite complex. So much information that kind of suffocates you, really. But I'm sure this website will be useful in future. Info Illuvium.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Question from Punjab in the chat. You guys should check out Big Time. Are any of us? I don't know if any of us are into Big Time. Anybody got any money in there?
No,
maybe
not exactly. I passed on the land, so. But yeah, I played it a little bit, but I didn't. Go
ahead, finish, Ray. You're still lagging. It's okay.
No, it's all good. I just passed on the land sale, and I did play it, and I know enough about it. But yeah, it wasn't the ones on the radar and on the offset.
Yeah, Punjab, if you have any assets in it or want to bring it to us, we can definitely go over it if we have somebody in the guild that's in it. So.
Grist here. You say, I know Rome will do as Rome does. That we do. But my eyes on Star Citizen and their upcoming server mesh. If it works, it could be great way for squads to gel and work on tactics in a 3D game world. Absolutely. And if you feel well versed in that and you know a lot about Star Citizen, I remember the first time that I actually looked at a video where a person got into their starship. And this is in Star Citizen. Left the atmosphere, pulled up out of the clouds, left the world, went to another world, found the place where they were going to land, came back into the atmosphere, and then landed on this planet, got out and went through their subway system and stuff. It was pretty impressive. I mean, make no mistake about it. They're the pioneers. They've 10 years of development on that project. They've led the way. On their shoulders is Star Atlas. That can never be taken away from Star Citizen. They've even got Star Citizen developers. They're doing they did a lot of things right, but they also were the pioneers where there's a lot of pitfalls along the way. And so I think their whole community felt a lot of fatigue along the way. But with that said, they've got some pretty exciting stuff to show now. And so, yeah, if you've got the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about, your thoughts on it, I'm happy to hear that. And I keep running into more and more people that have been a part of that project for a long time, and they've kind of been waiting in the wings. Whenever I talk about Star Atlas, they're like, yeah, well, the stuff you're showing me now, that just like triggers me from way back when I saw alpha stuff for Star Citizen back in the day. And so they're kind of waiting it out just to see how things develop. I think the pace is going to be much faster simply because we are leveraging what has happened before with Star Citizen.
Yeah, so I think that was everything for Illuvium. There was a bit for Miranda's this week.
Miranda's.
Yeah, so there was gameplay for the upcoming playtest where you have to shoot a goblin. This is gameplay from Jake on Chain Gaming's channel. World first is what he calls it. Yeah, thanks for sharing it with everyone, Jake. We'll leave the playing in the background. Yeah.
If you know any goblins or related to any goblins, we're sorry for this footage. There were goblins harmed.
Yeah, so to get your Materium, you will need to go into this playtest and shoot one goblin and kill it, and that will claim all the Materium you're due from all your exemplars.
Do you remember what I was saying earlier about the fact that this is like third playtest now. We went from a blocky field, which was clearly they just pulled stuff off the shelf from Unity platform, to them saying that was going to be very blocky, and we even saw square trees. Look at the trees, look at the detail, look at the grass. Miranda's is developing into a completely different game than was originally pitched. I'm in favor of it. The challenge they're going to have is the AI side, when these goblins are going to respond by learning based on their interactions. That's going to be a whole different level of gameplay. Will it be fun? Don't know. Sometimes realism doesn't equal fun, but it will be interesting to see how they approach it.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to McCarthy talking about programming that AI and how they were using like the way that chimps function in the wild and stuff like that to kind of try to actually code the AI in this game to actually work that way. So this is going to be really interesting and fun. But shout out to Ray VZ from Rome. I think maybe we'll get out there and find another tree to climb, or find a try to find the boundaries of this little map or whatever, and push the limits of this thing. Get our Materium, but I got to explore this world.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this playtest runs a bit better. There are, like last time there was deer, and I remember them being quite buggy, but yeah, these goblins are cool. It's baby steps towards actual like physical enemies, and then once you get there, you have to worry about, can they hurt you enough to like destroy everything you own unfairly.
I like that one's walking around with an arrow stuck in his head.
It was funny. Yeah, it was funny listening to Jake talk about this, because he called that
Well, that always does adventurers. And all right, so I think literally if you guys are jumping into the playtest when it comes out, that is enough to earn Materium on every single exemplar that you have. Is that correct? You're just going to need a...
That's correct, Jake. Thanks.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, the playtest gets very dark again, and that's kind of McCarthy's thing. So yeah, I'd like to be able to carry a torch around at some point.
Or a lantern.
Yeah.
or you just have a class. Of course, we don't know which classes, and we've had some mention of it, but we don't know to the extent at which you'll be able to see in the dark. There's some criteria. For example, with the dwarves, it's going to have to be when you're inside a mine. I think orcs, there's an orc that has some other criteria, and of course there's an elf that has some other benefit, being able to see things. Now, they did mention, because one of the styles of being able to see is more like an infrared. You can see like heat signatures. I'm wondering what that will look like visually. Now, again, they said all these things back at a time where they were just theory crafting, and before they even understood the mechanics of how you would implement it. So I'm curious if those things will hold true.
Yeah, like, it does look good. There has been definite improvements. I do miss the block trees.
The style that they've been going for with the lighting, and like the shot where they showed inside the tavern, and like this here around a campfire, I think it's beautiful, and I think it's great. It adds an interesting element of gameplay. One of the other things that is pretty fascinating about this is that Mirandus is not going to have music. So you're going to be hearing the environment. And so that will also make for a little bit different of an experience. And while it may be strange at first, you'll probably get used to it, and it will add just another element, because you'll probably be captivated by the sounds of the environment. They have, seemingly a good sound engineering team working on this. But it'll be pretty cool to be able to focus on utilizing what you hear as you're out in the wild, because again, the goal is to make this a very dangerous place, especially at night. So you probably don't want your senses obscured by music, just the same way you wouldn't be walking through these woods with a Walkman on.
Yeah, this wouldn't be the type of game you play while like watching Netflix on your other monitor.
Right. Walkman. Did I just date myself instead of saying like an Apple iPod or something? Yeah, I guess I did. Sony Walkman, if you're back in the 80s.
It'd be interesting to see if they had like an improved Mega Troll, or I guess it'd just be a troll.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And movement. And also, is the movement mechanics can be different than we see, like the mechanics of those goblins walking around on the ground.
Yeah.
Malikin Sense MDC is saying that On-Chain Gaming also has a new Mirandus AMA from Galaverse. Yeah, he covered Galaverse pretty darn thoroughly. I think it's quite a few videos. I've watched a lot of them. Very useful information. He actually sat down with a number of the dev team that are working on it that gave up some pretty good information. So yeah, it was good coverage for sure. So definitely worth checking out Jake on his channel, On-Chain Gaming.
Yeah, so there was a guy asking in our Discord that it's been very worrying that they plan that only a fraction of deeds to be placed in the game. Do they seriously think people will be okay with paying 10 to 20k for a hamlet and not find a spot for it?
Yeah, that was covered. And so...
Yeah, he linked to the video with a timestamp. We can let that play. Or
the logic behind that is this. They're trying to suggest that it's a known that the market will be such that not all people are going to be using their deeds at the same time. So they're trying to account for the fact there will be surplus that won't be in gameplay.
Yeah, I guess from their perspective, more or less in game is as much in game as possible. But yeah, it's a hard balance. Let's see what the developer has to say about it.
Or content might be new monsters or new resources, or we need more space for more lands, right? I don't know how long it would be for us to get to that point, but I already know that the expected number of zones that we're going to have is not going to be big enough for all the landowners to already place their deeds. So that's a pretty big number, and there's reason for that. It's not that we don't want people to place their deeds; it's that we expect a certain percentage is going to be out on OpenSea or up for sale, or maybe pulled out of the game for one reason or another. And that's typical, you know. But as we get to the point where the whole world is already filled out years from now, and Miranda's has, you know, hundreds of thousands of players that are super engaged and all using exemplars constantly, I think that the landowners are going to be really excited whenever we talk about adding more land or adding more space to the world. And then in much the way that you see, you know, people who are invested early are more likely to get the opportunities early. So if there's going to be land for sale, it's going to be to those people first, most likely. I'm not going to make that statement that it will be, but I mean, talk to McCarthy. He'll be the one who makes those decisions. Yeah.
That's a good answer. Talk to McCarthy. He's the main
All right.
guy.
Yeah. So that is, I mean, it is going to be a challenge, and not everyone's going to be happy. And as Punjab is saying here, they do have to build it out as they go. There's no such thing as jumping into a fully functioning economy. It just can't happen that way, which is why you have to kind of like prime the pump and seed an economy. So are there going to be people that are going to be a little grumpy that they might not be able to place their deed right away? Absolutely. And once those deeds are placed, are there going to be people a little grumpy and salty over the fact that they have a building that they paid a lot for and they don't have any place to place it? Absolutely. So yeah, there's going to be some challenges, and that's the nature of any project. I just personally wish that projects like Gala would take into greater consideration how to work with a community to ease into that, rather than go with the model of a large cap raise to sell as much as you can and figure it out after the fact. So it is going to be a bumpy road, but that's the nature of new projects.
Yeah, it does get a bit tiring once you've been through a few cycles, and they have so many games out now, and I don't expect them to stop.
Right. Yeah, I think that, I mean, and I've said this many times, Gala's initial model was cap raise. Sell, tell a story, don't really even have a game plan yet, but raise as much capital as we can, because their long-term future goal was to be the network, the publisher for game developers in the blockchain space. And they're doing a great job of the land grab right now. They're scooping up IP, they're making deals, they're pumping palms and kissing babies and making stuff happen and figuring it out as they go after the fact, because they want to scoop up as much of the landscape as they can. And the truth is, they're doing a great job of it. But just know that as a consumer, you're going to get caught up in that a little bit, and you may be a little disappointed if you're not in it for the long haul. I believe they're going to be around for the long haul, and I think in the long run, most people are probably going to be pretty happy. But do know this: not all those projects are going to work. Not all those games are going to be successful, and with that comes a lot of risk. So be prepared for that as well.
Yeah. And as we've said, On-Chain Gaming goes into it in more detail, so I think we'll leave that to him.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else to cover for today's episode?
I think that's it.
Yeah. That was a good one. A lot of content.
Yeah, good job, Bryce.
I saw a couple of mentions there, and we do ask for that all the time.
Yeah,
There was a couple of
Tigrist
people
comment
telling
in the comment section about Dr. Disrespect. Yeah, I'm gonna be an NFT, NYC NFT, and I'm gonna attend his event on the 22nd. So yeah, he's doing some good stuff. Midnight Society, well-known gamer on YouTube for a while now, for many years actually, and he's now hopping on to the blockchain space, Polygon, like it was mentioned, and yeah, promising stuff from a trusted community member for traditional gaming. It's been entertaining us for years. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited for that. And then, yeah, on the Miranda's front with what was just covered, I have a little lag on my end. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, as it was mentioned by McCarthy, that big deeds are going to be placed first, which are the citadels worth millions of dollars. And then you would go down as far as size, maybe not price, but it correlates. So you would have more deeds coming onto the map of space that they're, or zone that they're allowing at first. And yeah, I think that what they're going to do up until the time of when everyone's going to be able to put their deeds down is expand the deeds so that way maybe all of them could be put down, but in increments, as they mentioned. So I think that for now, what we hear is what we hear. But just like every other time they said something, and then we were kind of like rustled by it as a community, not understanding. It comes together at some point, and it makes sense ultimately at the point of when it's going to now either make them look bad from the community out, like lashing out, and then they'll change their tune, and then they'll accommodate whatever it is at the moment, which they're probably always going to be able to do. So I see it as an issue right now that there's not enough communication on economics, and maybe miscommunication or contradictions on what one dev is saying versus another dev. But I think at the time and as we go, these things are more brought to light, and then it just makes sense, and it's more fair, I guess, depending on what the ultimate goal is for the developers is right for the community. So I think we'll fare well when we get to that point. But in the meantime, it's going to be a lot of I won't invest, and then or I'll wait.
Cool. And as always, man,
yeah,
we
I'm
appreciate you guys mentioning the projects that you're involved in.
Thanks for everybody taking part.
And yeah, we've got a number of mentions of different projects, some that I'm not familiar with, some that I've heard whisper of, but even projects that we are familiar with. If you've got contacts, whether it be people that are active in the community or you yourself that feel like you have a good grasp of a particular project and you'd kind of like to come on and share your thoughts and ideas on it so that we can share it with the rest of the community, be happy to do that. So appreciate you guys and your participation as well.
Responding to Real Talk, is this live? Yeah, it is live. We go live every week at the same time. It's a pleasure having you all with us. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. So which outro? Before we take off here, are we going with Atlas Minor, which I can never get that song out of my head after we play it, or do we want to play our Rome Oni clip?
Let's mix it up. Let's go for Rome.
All right, that's it.
We
will see you guys. Any final thoughts? I know that Bonafide had to jump off. He had some connection issues. Any final thoughts there, Ray?
Yeah, just thanks again for all the support. Stay tuned with what's going on in the space. You could always, hop in our Discord, continue conversations on games or ideas and thoughts. Like, subscribe, the whole nine. Smash everything you see, and yeah, we'll be around.
Awesome. How about you, Fancy Hat?
Yeah, if you want to check out our Copa entry, check out our Discord. It's in the About Us MVN channel. And yeah, learn all about what we represent.
Awesome. We appreciate you guys. Hope you find value in this, whether you're watching this with us live, which a lot of the usual suspects, man, we appreciate you guys and your loyalty and the way you guys show up, and not only just show up to watch, but also contribute. Share your thoughts, ideas, and feedback so that it really is a conversation that we're collectively having. Love that part of it. Appreciate you all for sure. And with that, we'll see you again this time next week, next Sunday. And for those of you that end up catching these episodes as a rewatch, we appreciate you as well. Hopefully you can make it with us live, but if not, you can always reach out to us on Discord if you have any questions or things you'd like to see us cover. With that, we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
Are you ready for the next evolution in gaming? Blockchain games are here. Why just play when you can play to earn? Enter the Star Atlas Metaverse with Rome. Star Atlas is a grand strategy game of space exploration, territorial conquest, political domination, and so much more. Rome is a premier guild of the ONI Faction within Star Atlas. Rome is here to play and to earn. Want to take part in the action? Rome is accepting new citizens. Join the Rome Guild on Discord to learn more at gorome.io.